Bitcoin gave back some of yesterday's gains and markets are following. But behind this price action, two major macro developments just dropped, and they're way more important than a red candle on your chart. Inflation is cooling faster than expected, and Trump's economic team is rolling out a strategy that could completely reshape the global order. Today I'm breaking down exactly what this means for crypto in the short term and how it sets up for something much bigger later this year. Let's get into it. So we're seeing a pullback, and based on volume, okay, it's just a pullback and not I have my notes here, and not a breakdown. All right, it's not breaking down. For it to break down, it would have to go below, I think, around 75,754. Okay, 76,000. We could have that as a round number. All right, break down below, see some bodies there, and that would mean that we would come probably down here to around 68. All right. The upside, obviously, we'd have to break above 84,000, which would be this ascending line. Okay, then that means, to me, if we do that, if we could hold some bodies, we'd probably get to 90. If we lose this, basically, we're testing lower. We're testing lower, 73, maybe even 68. Okay, we're not out of the woods like I've been mentioning, but this overall chart is extremely bullish. If you pan out, it looks very bullish. This wedge is actually a bullish structure. Right now, we're just going through a bearish period. Okay, so eventually, I don't think this breaks down. Eventually, you know, although we could drop lower, and probably my base case is that we go sideways, as I've been mentioning for the next couple of months, weeks to months. Eventually, we are going to move up. Okay, for just a bunch of reasons that I see pretty much every day, and even just technically, this chart is looking good. Okay, this drop today is normal. Again, a pullback based on volume. It's not a breakdown, so that's pretty good. Again, it's just oscillating like it's been doing. Red day up, big green day up yesterday, and now giving back about half of those gains. Right. So let's see what happens. Maybe we're just gonna hang out here, go sideways for a little while, for the foreseeable future, unless things change. And there are some things that could change in the next month or so that could be a catalyst. Example, the whole Fed thing. So we'll get into that, right? Because the cooling inflation, right, the report that came out today, and the Fed's hesitation to maybe keep rates how they are, right? The Fed is now has some decisions to make. All those are could potentially be. The inflation thing is a bullish catalyst. Okay, inflation is going down. We're going to discuss that right now. But these are all bullish catalysts. This is all a bullish setup, right? Because middle and long term, I am very bullish on crypto and Bitcoin. In the short term, I think I'm neutral or maybe even slightly bearish. Okay, just like how I think this chart could play out. My base case, again, going sideways, maybe dropping a little bit more. Okay, somewhere around here. All right, before eventually turning around. Okay, and that catalyst could come as early as next month. Cool, so that's pretty much the breakdown. Let's take a look at other markets really quickly. What's Ethereum doing? I'm thinking we do come down here, okay? If Bitcoin just kind of goes sideways and the market's boring for the next couple of months, I think, yeah, we do find our way down here. DXY, look at that, nice. DXY keeps dropping. Dow Jones giving back some gains expected. NASDAQ, same thing. S&P 500, same thing. Guys, in short, we're not out of the woods. What's the 10-year? Oop, spike back up. Not a huge spike, but notice how it played this line, right? And it stayed above it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens if it's going to build from here and keep moving up. It's not something that we want to see. Gold definitely spiked back up. Made new all-time highs today. Okay. What's the VIX look like? I barely ever watched it. Look at this. Volatility. This is the volatility index, okay, of the S&P 500. Extremely volatile lately, right? All right, so that's kind of, let's take a look at others. Rejecting off of this 109. Right now we're at 199 billion. I'm sorry, 209 rejection. All right, we're at 199 billion, but Bitcoin is dropping, so everything else has to drop again. That's why we always watch what's happening with Bitcoin. But no big deal. Like I said, could be boring. Short term, I am neutral to bearish, right? But I don't think we're falling off the cliff. And again, this setup is very, very bullish. So midterm and long term, I'm thinking very positive. I think we're gonna be much higher. We're gonna be all right, guys. So let's get into this. I didn't put it in. Let's get into this. All right, let's talk about Stephen Miron, who's currently the chair of Trump's Council of Economic Advisors. Back in November 2024, he published a paper that now reads like a blueprint for what the Trump administration is doing in real time. This is the paper. It's pretty long. We're going to analyze this paper. User's Guide to Restructuring the Global Trading System, okay, by Stephen Miron. All right, in it, Miron argues the U.S. Miron argues the U.S. dollar is overvalued because of its global reserve currency status. That overvaluation hurts U.S. exports and manufacturing. His solution: strategic tariffs to rebalance trade, strengthen the domestic industry, and even generate government revenue. But here's a twist. Miron doesn't see tariffs just as taxes. He sees them as leverage. He recommends using them to push countries into new trade deals and even tying them to U.S. defense commitments. Basically, if we protect you militarily, you play fairly economically. He also floats the idea of a modern-day Plaza Accord, or what some now call the Mar-a-Lago Accord, where global powers agree to rebalance currency valuations. And right now, we're seeing that exact playbook: aggressive tariffs, global pressure, negotiations starting, and talk of a new economic order. If Miron's strategy plays out fully, it could trigger major shifts in the dollar, global trade, and capital flows, and crypto could absolutely be in the crosshairs of that shift. I just gave you the executive summary of what this was all about. Okay, you could go read it yourself. I'm gonna do my best to have my team provide the link. Okay. Now let's pivot to the latest inflation data, what it might mean for the Fed's next move, and of course for crypto. March inflation came in cooler than expected. Headline CPI dropped to 2.4% and core CPI hit 2.8%, both lower than forecast in the second straight months of inflation cooling, and the lowest annual rate we've seen in 4 years. Okay, that's bullish on the surface, but here's where it gets sticky. Even with inflation dropping, the Fed is watching something else: tariffs. That's like the word of 2025, tariffs. There's concern that Trump's aggressive trade policy could reignite inflation by raising import costs. So for the May Fed meeting, I don't know why that was hard for me to say, the May Fed meeting, here's what I think. The Fed likely holds rates steady. They've got a win with inflation cooling, but they won't risk a rebound by loosening too soon. They'll emphasize they're still data dependent, as always, watching inflation and trade effects closely. They may hint at flexibility, keeping the option open to ease later this year if inflation stays in check. For crypto, that means we stay in wait and see mode. Lower inflation helps, but if rate cuts stay off the table, we're not in full risk on just yet. Yeah, we need to see some cuts. The setup for a bullish breakout is forming, but we're not quite there. Okay, and that all pretty much aligns with what this chart is telling us, guys. Right? What this chart is telling us, we're not quite there. It could be the doldrums again, short term, right? Boring short term, but all that means, you already know if you watch it, is just opportunity, guys. Just opportunity. Now let's have a little bit more fun and talk about some of these memes, because actually memes is some serious work. If you can get this stuff right, you can make yourself a boatload of money. You could lose a lot if you don't. Okay, look at this trend line right here. This is exactly where we are. We've held on to it pretty much. Well, there was another trend line down here. Okay, I don't know that we come down here unless everything just goes to crap, which I don't think it will. But if we lose this area of where we're at right now, 0.025, talking about Mr. Miggles, then yeah, I could see us trend back down to maybe under a penny. But I don't know that we stay there for too long. We'll see. Time will tell. We're still going down, but that's because Bitcoin is still going down. Eventually, once everything turns and Bitcoin turns, this will too. Look, case in point, right? Oh, yesterday, right? Green candle because Bitcoin went up. So once Bitcoin starts moving up hard, what do you think these things are going to do? They're going to move up harder, right? Toshi, the good ones, right? And these are the good ones. Toshi, to me now, with more of these sideways candles that we see, to me that's really a break from this, right? See how it's just dropping, little sideways, very little sideways, and this one kind of, but then just dropping. So let's see, a few more days, I think, to get an idea, for me to confirm that this is probably the floor, right? And maybe some just sideways chop for a little bit. Although its characteristic is it doesn't chop for too long, right? Maybe another couple of weeks before it starts moving up again, right? So that's Toshi. I think great buy zone. Same thing, KeyCat holding the support right now, 2021. Actually, support is at 2020. Okay, maybe we could come down here, 0018, possible, right? But let's see, it's showing some strength. Dog gave me the same thing, showing some strength, wanting to hold on to this area right here at 3040. Okay, so let's see what happens there. What else? Yeah, that's it, man. That's all I wanted to bring to your attention. All right, as Bitcoin loses 80,000, 79,000, but it really shouldn't come to a surprise. At the end, this will all just seem like noise, right? If I am right, which I think I am, you know, we see Bitcoin much higher at the end of this year. Okay, we see Bitcoin much higher at the end of the year. Right now, short term, yes, neutral to bearish, right? Just essentially sideways chop for a little while, getting people bored, getting people more scared, more nervous, more anxious. But eventually there will be light at the end of the tunnel, guys, and I think we're moving up eventually. So do with that information what you will. Guys, if you can, please like, please subscribe, please leave a comment. I'm trying to grow this channel, and all that stuff really does help. With all that said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Peace.